Okay. We start. David? Where is David? Okay. I'll start anyway. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Foreign Correspondent Club of Japan. My name is Pio D'Emilia, and along with my temporary disappeared David McNeil, we are going to moderate this very special event. We are very, very much grateful to our guest speaker, Weiwei. Since we had the pandemic, I think this is by far the best event, the most attended event. So I hope it is a good signal for the future. Today we will have a little bit different format, as all wise persons. Ai Weiwei did not want to make a speech. He rather prefers questions and answers. So we decided to warm up a little bit the two moderators for the first 10, 15 minutes. And then he will go straight into questions and answers. Before that, I know that most of the people here know him very well, but nevertheless, I feel obliged to read out the very short, introduction that I prepared overnight. So, Ai Weiwei, who may very well consider the most influential artist at our time, was born in 1957 in Beijing. His father, the poet Ai Qing, was labeled a rightist in 1958, and Ai and his family were exiled first to Heilongjiang, I hope pronunciation, yeah, and in northeastern China, then soon after to the deserts of Xinjiang in northwestern China. Following the death of Chairman Mao Zedong in 1976, Ai Qing was rehabilitated and the family could move back to Beijing. Ai would enroll at the Beijing Film Academy and was one of the original members of the STARS group of artists. I was among the first group of students who were able to travel and study abroad. In 1981, he moved to the United States, living first in Philadelphia and San Francisco, then in New York, where he became acquainted with the works of Andy Warhol and Dada artist Marcel Duchamp, and met Allen Ginsberg, who as a poet had met his father. Returning to China in 1993 to care for his ailing father, I contributed to the establishment of Beijing East Village, a community of avant-garde artists. He began to take an interest in architecture in 1999, designing his own studio in Chao Chandi, something like that, yeah, on the northeast edge of Beijing. You are very nice, thank you. In 2003, I started his own architectural practice, Fake Design. In 2007, as a participant of Documenta 12 in Kassel, Germany, he brought 1,001 Chinese citizens to Kassel as part of his fairy tale project. In 2008, I and the Swiss architecture team of Herzog and de Meuron designed the Beijing National Stadium, the famous bird's nest. But Ai Weiwei would not be satisfied in just producing amazing artwork and gaining national and international recognition. His interest in social issues and his probably DNA rooted instinct to rebel brought him on a collision course with the Chinese authorities, culminating in his 2011 arrest. He was detained without formal charges for 81 days and then put under house arrest. When he was finally returned his passport in 2015, he left China, moving first to Germany, where he maintained a large studio in a former brewery, then Cambridge in UK, where his son still studies, and eventually in Portugal, where he intends to stay for good unless something happens, to use his own words. We will check what this could be. His activity as a dissident has gone hand in hand with his artistic career, and he has continued to produce work testifying to his political beliefs, while at the same time making plenty of room for creativity and experimentation. It was for this reason that in 2012, he probably received, among many others international recognitions, the Václav Havel Prize for Creative Dissent by the Human Rights Foundation. Ai Weiwei spares no critic to Western, often arrogant hypocrisy and widespread violation of human rights. I remember him in 2015 during the migrant crisis in Greece and the Balkans, denouncing the unhuman conditions of the migrants and lack of responsibility by most of the European governments. Those days are part of this 2017 epic film journey, Human Flow, which took part at the 74th Venice International Film Festival. The film gives a powerful visual expression to the contemporary massive human migrations, captured over the course of an eventful year in 23 countries. Human Flow follows a chain of urgent human stories that stretches across the globe in countries including Afghanistan, Bangladesh, France, Greece, Germany, Iraq, Israel, Italy, Kenya, Mexico, and Turkey. His output over the past 30 years allows us to explore his ambivalent relation both with Western culture and with the culture of his own country, torn between a deep-rooted sense of belonging and an equally strong urge to rebel. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a warm welcome to today's guest speaker, Ai Weiwei. So, Weiwei, do you want to just say hello to our guest, or shall we just start? Okay, David, you're the first question.
Well, I'll start off with a nice softball question. Is conflict between China and the West inevitable, do you think? Or can it be avoided? Or can it be avoided?
Well, this is always the question. I don't think it can be avoided. It's not possible. And, you know, it's very, very different type of civilization or culture. And this conflicts will be always remains the same if it doesn't even goes much higher level. But that's my simple answer.
Thank you. Pio?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the next question is kind of a follow-on, if you like. Do you regret that you're asked as many questions about your politics as you are about your art? Or do you think the two always go together, you know, the art and the politics?
Well, as I don't know, as someone like me growing up in China, 65 years old, have been through so much. I have been in China for 42 years and also spent the rest time in the West. So it's almost not possible not to talk about the politics. And so I always say the politics and my art cannot be separated.
Right. Do I get a third one,
Yes,
Pio? Is that all right?
It's your lucky day.
You've said that the West is complicit in the rise and survival of the Chinese regime. Do you want to just explain what you meant by that?
Well, I say all the West or East or different countries or the purpose basically is about how to survive and how to make a better living. And in past, after the Cold War, in past 30 years, 40 years, and China presents the best opportunity human ever had, to take a nation with 1.4 billion people to the poorest level. And basically, this kind of opportunity never had and never will repeat itself. So China is eager to catch up, and to use Deng Xiaoping's words, it's very simple, is to get rich first. He made it very clear, get rich first. So what is next, he never mentioned. And then Jiang Zemin, he said, just be quiet and make money. These big politicians in China, they don't give sophisticated philosophical talking. It's just for one person you can remember, get rich first. The next generation is to make money quietly. That means 闷声挣大钱. And then the next generation is the Hu Jintao, who was sadly, we see, being moved away from the ceremony yesterday. He said, 不折腾. That means do not make rebels or disturbing. Let's keep moving. 不折腾 means so you can see China, 3 generations of leader just want to maintain the best opportunity for China to become a strong nation, rich, because they see the golden opportunity of West needs them to be the biggest labor market. And of course, it's unthinkable, a labor market under communist control, and it's unthinkable. It's the most efficient, everybody want to become rich in China, and even the poorest villagers, they have dreamed to become something related to world. So, and with that kind of eager to produce anything the West need, labor, no labor protection, no human rights, no freedom of speech, no whatever. It's just whatever you want to produce, we serve you. I mean, this is unthinkable. It's like a miracle, but not last for one day, but the past 30 years. Till this generation of leaders, they realize they become quite strong now. Second largest economy. In many ways, they are even leading as the first ones. And they are seeing their position in the world has been reached the ceiling, which that means China will not, if they don't to really reinterpret so-called world order, they will meet some kind of difficulty to develop. So this generation of leaders, they definitely have a so-called China stream. They're not talking about making money first anymore. And they even have this attitude, they don't care that much about the money issue anymore. They want to reinterpret the world order, I think not only China, but also Russia. Putin also mentioned that, they don't like the way the game being designed by the West. Which has many problems too, but obviously they think they need to reinterpret that. So that is the whole conflict.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just take it up from here. Democracy. You
What
remember?
is democracy? Talk about the pasta or?
No, democracy is not relating to pasta. Pasta is authoritarian. It's that one and nothing else. Churchill, many, many years ago, used to say that democracy may not be a perfect system, but it's the best one that we know. Judging from what happens in some Western democracies, including Italy and Japan, where half of the people don't go to vote anymore, and where very controversial leaders are elected, do you think time has come for reconsidering democracy as it is now used in most of the countries, or we should still keep using the same system?
Well, I think those kind of political choice almost like our eating habit or the taste in or what will make us comfortable, what kind of shoes we are wearing or what kind of jacket we have. Of course, it's not the so-called best system. It's just a lie to the people who are dressing the same. And of course, recent years to meet the challenge with China or other places, they are become a strong nation, but they don't recognize this democracy. Then many people start to doubt, oh, this kind of authoritarian has much better, it's much more efficient. You just talk about efficiency because this is a very key word for capitalism so they cannot meet the competition. And internally, so-called democracy also really, in my view, is not really has anything to do with democratic ideology, but rather as how to maintain this capitalism, cooperative dominated system to meet the competition. And so that is have a lot of problems. So I don't think we should develop that way, but the conversation.
Weiwei, you have always been in the fields. Before making judgment and statements, you always were there, so to say. Remember when we met during the Balkans and Greece crisis, and one of the vivid pictures I have of you is you playing piano on Lesbos or Samos Island to have European consciousness raised about the issue. It was very effective. I would expected you to show up in Ukraine, but you didn't yet. Do you plan to go there? And if yes, do you have any idea or how to solve and to start a peace negotiation in Ukraine?
Huh?
Ukraine.
Oh, Ukraine. Okay. Well,
Do you intend to go there? Or?
I have intention to go to all the troubled areas. It's my instinct to learn more. But even made someone's arrangement, it never really happened. So I don't think I'm relevant even to go to that kind of area. And but I forget all the argument from both sides. I think peace talk is most important, and finally they have to come to peace talk anyway.
So
I don't encourage people to fight if I'm not in the fighting field. If I'm there, I would fight, but I would not encourage any others to fight.
Oh, I understand. David, you have another question?
Yeah, you warned last year, you caused a bit of a stir you gave an interview on American TV where you said that America was also an authoritarian state.
Yeah, I'm the first one saying that in American public television, and that time they're so surprised, but now I think they agree with that.
Right. So the reaction, I was going to ask you about the reaction, but I was going to ask you maybe if you could just explain what you meant by that. It will be counterintuitive to some people.
Well, I think I will not go deeper on that. I want to say what, if it's a phenomenon, you say what is the, I've been called a liberal. My work's always been praised by the liberals, and, I don't think the conservative or they even care about art. So, but still, I have a problems with the liberals because they are going too far. I think in many ways they are killing themselves by doing so far, but not really know how to respect the history and how to recognize themselves in the reality. That's if I make the very simple talk.
So America needs to be more self-reflective.
I think so. I think they should understand America only have a little bit more than 200 years of history. And yesterday about some erratic wood prints in Tokyo, there's just exactly as American history. This very beautiful Fushi prints. So I think Americans should more relate to the world reality, why America become America, and why the rest of the world are really going to be, to think about more globally rather than just to think American first, or this kind of thinking, I think is, it kills them, so.
Got it. Okay. Pio?
Talking back about the migrant issues and your human flow, would you subscribe, make a statement in favor of the concept that migrancy, it's a fundamental human right, and that we should not reduce this only to war refugees, but also to so-called economic refugees?
This is also a complicated issue. I think from my understanding or my experience with refugees, I've been visiting dozens of biggest refugees camps, and the non-single refugees is really want to leave their home. It doesn't matter how poor and how economically undeveloped, they still have a home, and they respect their life in this kind of, could be African desert or could be in Jordan or Pakistan or Afghanistan. They love their home, they don't want to go far away. And but unless there's bombs comes down, and their children will be harmed, and their elderly people will be harmed, they have to leave. They have to just grab whatever they can grab and to go to another country, not really looking for opportunity, but for safety. So I think the West, if they still can maintain their own understanding of themselves to the land, have freedom or have democracy, have plenty, and then I cannot accept they have to push them when they try to come to the shore and into the water. You see, many migrants have to stay in the water for not just days, weeks, or months. Cannot approach the border. I mean, this is absolutely inhuman, evil act, and that being commonly accepted. And the media less and less report about issues like that.
Thank you very much. I think we could. What about David?
I think it's time to open
then
up.
we will have the last question, probably. I have a last question for him that I'm sure he will like. Yes, our president, Peter.
When you come to the mic, can you tell us who you are? Thanks.
Yes.
Oh, this mic.
Yeah. I'm Peter Ahlstrom. I'm a journalist at Bloomberg News, and I'm the president of the FCCJ. Thank you very much for coming, first of all. And I feel like we're speaking to you at a very opportune moment, right after the party Congress, as it's closing. And I have at least two questions for you, but I'll begin with one that you referenced. Yesterday, there was this moment, the video came out about Hu Jintao being removed from the party Congress in an incident that became quite widespread online. Within China, it was censored, I think, completely. What do you make of that incident?
Well, it's a very obscure moment, but it's a reality. It shows the deep reality of the communist very central core of the communist society. It's not that really happens yesterday. It's the whole history from 1921. They become a party. They have under constantly internal struggle about the power. And this is just a very small glimpse about what is really the reality. You see this president, and I know this person, Hu Jintao. He visited my father's funeral. He's a very calm and reasonable man, but he's head of the Communist Party. So, and the people saying he may be too soft. Him and Wen Jiabao, is the softest communist leaders ever, because they understand their position as a bridge. They have to handling the real power to the powerful generation of this today. It's called they call it 红二代. That means red second generation. I'm also part of that. And my father also as comrade of our president Xi's father. They are pretty close relations. So from my point of view, that struggle is never stopped in every generation. Even if you talk about Chairman Mao, if anyone can remember this endless struggle with his comrades or very close allies, supporting him from Liu Shaoqi, Lin Biao, or whoever, or Peng Dehuai, they all been horribly crushed. And what we see this a few seconds, it's just a reflection to see when a president was being forced out, not to let him to know what is writing in those papers. Those papers supposed to have the name of the new bureau circle of the Xi, and they must have some kind of deal before made. So, but now what the reality must be has a complete different reality. So he was frustrated, want to touch that paper, and the next person hold his hand, push his hand away to not to let those few seconds catched by foreign media because they just rushed into that meeting. And so they called the president's private, guard to score him out. Basically, it's to carry him out. So he was so frustrated, and the most funny thing is all the people sitting there, they dare even to see what's happening. They all faced like nothing happened. It's very much like a fake photo of the reality, because nobody moves, nobody blinks their eyes even, just he's forced out. So, but it shows a top central government or leaders are ruthless. So a big nation, 1.4 billion people, are controlled by a group of people who have no respect, not just rule, but really doesn't even have personal feelings, emotions, or even just friendship, or to care a little bit. Nobody dare to show their face. It's like they are on the poker table. If you ever play poker, you see all the people, doesn't matter good cards or bad cards they get. They all have same face. So we call it a poker face. So.
If I can follow up with a somewhat broader question. Xi Jinping now is taking over for his third 5-year term. It's an unprecedented move by him to consolidate power. He also replaced his closest advisors with more loyalists. What do you think a third term and possibly a fourth term means for China? And just to think about a few different categories, what does it mean politically? What does it mean economically? And what does it mean for culture and the arts?
You even mentioned the word culture, which is not in their total speech. They never mentioned the culture even once. They mentioned the other things could be 100 times, but security or stability or even reform, they mentioned maybe 27 times, but they keep mentioning people, the highest category, maybe 160 times, but the culture not even mentioned once. So simply, that's the political culture, is to talk about next 5 years or 10 years. This is a really imperial's understanding of a state. They will make sure his legacy or his political agenda will be continued. And to stay there is a means of surviving. If he's get down, he's really going to be in trouble. During his, this 10 years, they crashed about 40, 50,000 high officials as corrupted officials. Of course, they are corrupted, but the number should be much higher. But they use that to clean out those people they don't like. But of course, those people should be crushed. But it's only because it's selectively applied, so-called anti-corruption. And they also clean out over 100 generals in the army. So he can never really think about to even get down. This is very dangerous. For him, it's dangerous. That means it's dangerous for Chinese society.
Thank you. Just allow me a personal comment, Peter. It's true that the Chinese TV did censor that scene, but yesterday they showed up Hu Jintao several times in the Congress the day after, which usually when you purge some people, you delete everything since his birth. So that is my personal opinion. Okay, let's go on. We first go to the working press, to the journalists, and then we go into the associates. Ilgen.
Hello, İlgin Yorulmaz, BBC World Turkish. I'm also the second vice president of the club. Thank you for coming here today. I just want to ask you about Hong Kong. What do you hear the latest from your friends in Hong Kong, the freedom of expression and the state of affairs there? And also related to that, if I may ask, recently you spoke to Lord Patten in London about your struggles as someone who has been abroad for so many years as a freedom fighter. And you also mentioned one of the guards, I believe, who once arrested you, asking you, you're fighting for freedom, you're asking for freedom, but you're going to end up in jail for it. Is it really worth it? Is it or not? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Hong Kong is, long before Chinese so-called the national security law being applied to Hong Kong, I gave, I think, a talk to Guardians, or I said this is the end of Hong Kong. It's like the last nails for the coffin. So Hong Kong become used to be independent autonomy, now become any place in China, like Shenzhen or Shanghai. There's no different. So that means yeah, it's the same. So I don't have to even to describe what. And about the second question, if there is worse for someone to be defending the values within communist society or in authoritarian place, yes, the security, they trying to convince me to say, but I think they are very realistically talking about the issues. They said, you fight for freedom, but you will lose all your freedom in your life. You will pay that second by second, day by day, or years, and in this jail cell. So that also make me rethink about it, because many of my comrades or friends or close associates, they lost their freedom. They are in jail. They're being forgotten. There's nobody really even know their name, but they are purely defending of very basic human rights. They are not leaders of a movement. They just try to have little rights, but they lost their freedom. So I've also, often see the people being locked up in Turkey or in, everywhere, and they lost their freedom. The good example I would mention, because somehow relate to your career, is Julian Assange. I visited him in British jail. I also visited him in the embassy, or I met him several times, or even in the court. I was joined the court to listen to this process. So he's going to be sent to U.S. for 175 or 6 years. Could be lifetime in prison. And what he did, we all know, is very essential for information. Because we cannot all depend on our information in the cooperative or mainstream media, because there's many reasons we need the independent investigation platform. And he's not someone hiked the information. He just provides the platform. So if he is criminal, then forget to talk about press freedom or information freedom. So that is truly a problem, because even China, the government, the communists laughing about the Western so-called freedom of expression or media freedom. They even talk about Assange or Snowden, So I don't know. I think if we don't protect people like that, we all lose something precious rights in our life, in modern society.
Andy?
This guy is serious.
Hi, I'm a very serious journalist. My name is Andy Sharp from Nikkei Asia. So in China, obviously you've had various systems of government and rulers over the decades and centuries. You had the emperors, then you had the nationalists, now the communists. And reading your book, life didn't seem pretty good under any of them, really. So how do you see things progressing? We've got Xi Jinping wanting to stay in as a leader for life, as the new emperor in China. Do you see it changing in any way for the better? A different group coming in to really open up China, really to end the oppression of the freedom of thought in China. Do you think things will ever change for the better under a different type of leadership in China?
That's a pessimist or optimist question. Are you a pessimist or an optimist? I think that question.
Well, I'm very realistic person. I only see things day by day, and I could have some predictions, but very often my prediction is wrong. So, and in many years ago, when I was still free on internet, I can freely talk. Every morning I write 2 or 3 articles on Chinese blog. I predicted that within 3 years, the nation will change. Because if you have really freedom of speech, that's why we talk about the freedom of information and speech are so essential for democratic society. If we don't respect those things, then we are immediately falling into a dark society. So that's why I raise up the Snowden's or Assange's case, because that is very clear if you don't protect that. It doesn't need to take long. It rottens in the seconds. And China, the situation is, it's very hard to say they're getting better or not. It depends on also who they are fighting for, like the U.S. or the West. Are they getting better? I mean, very, very difficult even to imagine they are going to getting better. If they can keep the same condition as the past few years, probably that's the best moment of our life. So, that means if we don't get worse than today, that's already very appreciable. So it's very hard to say. And China, you can see, people just measure it economically. Of course, about the energy price, about all the resource and development. China certainly was slowed down, but also other nations probably also facing the same problem.
Other questions from the press?
Peter has
What?
Peter Langen has.
Yeah, but Mara was first, I think.
Hello, it's wonderful to have you here. My name is Mara Budgen. I'm a freelance journalist and a member of this club, and I focus mainly on sustainability and human rights. So I've been following your work for quite a few years now, and we've had a lot of questions about politics, right? But I would actually like to ask you something about art. What are you working on now? Over the past few years, you've produced a number of documentaries. But for example, I was wondering whether you're working on any of the kind of large-scale installations, like sunflower seeds and the life jackets, the stuff that have made you famous all around the world in the eyes of, art lovers the world over. So what are you working on now, and what can we look forward to in the future?
Maybe my effort would be, to, how do you call it, defamalization, because I think whatever I did is not really helping that much, it's not really, and also destroys my life. So I'm too much into this kind of political discussions. It seems to lead to nowhere. And I should pay more attention to my personal life. So the simple answer, yeah. You only have a limited time, right? It's like a book have last a few pages. You have to think, oh, how would I spend that?
Peter?
I'm Peter Langen with Forecast News. I'd like to follow up with a similar question on your art, and also the point you just made about the limited time we have. You did a project in December 2021 called YOLO, You Only Live Once. You may not remember it, but it was a series of pictures of you with, I think, an Italian artist who met you in China. And then they were put into NFTs.
No, sold. I never did anything like that. Really? Anything related to NFT has nothing to do with me, but it's quite a lot on the line. So.
Oh, okay. So you have no interest in that technology?
And I'm interested in the technology. I'm also interested in the perspective about communication, but I have a problem with the money related to it. You know, I always think they said, "Oh, Weiwei, you can easily do it. You know, you're activist, you're online all the time, and you know how to." Too many works in relate to that kind of social response. But I would always ask, what is next? You know, after you drag so many people in there, still become a little like a stock exchange or stuff. So that's why I never really touched it.
Okay, so can I just confirm then you were not involved in that project?
No.
Because it was apparently the funds raised from the sales of NFTs went to human rights groups in China.
No, it doesn't matter. Give to whoever. It's just using my name, and every day we have to call in people to say, hey, we have nothing to do with it. But still, you see, this kind of people. How can you trust people like that? Doesn't matter what kind of name they're using. They just. I don't have words for people like that. So,
Thank you.
Thank you for cleaning this up. You know. I don't even know it. So.
If I may, Weiwei, you recently produced that wonderful sculpture, I guess, installation, the candelabra. Candelabra, I think, in English, yes. I saw it in Rome and it was in Venice. Do you plan to bring it over to Japan?
Well, I'm doing some, always doing something people said or is oversized or, it's, but still, since I'm really interested about the book, I think you can carefully write down what's in your mind rather to create some kind of sensational emotions or, I will probably continue to show some works, but it's not my interest. I never, if anybody go to my studio, I have a very big studio in Germany, and I will have another one. I had one in China, but two of my studios are destroyed by the authorities. It's taken down. And I designed it because I think it's nice to have that kind of space, but I really don't want to show any of my work because I really don't want to look at my work. It's like I'm not interested in my self-image, it's not, I'm more interested in something I'm not familiar with, or it suggests some kind of danger or some kind of unknown area. That's me. So in my studio, you don't see any of my work hanging there. It's complete open space, empty. So when they have a busload of people, from trustees from museum, come to far away to see Weiwei studio, they were very happy to see. People like to see what's in the other people's wallet or something bedroom. But when they come in, they're completely surprised. This is empty room. I said, I'm the artwork. So then they are happy. So.
Peel.
Okay.
I see three hands, two here and one over there.
And then we go to the associates, a couple of questions. Go ahead.
Go Kawasaki, freelancing sort of. Did Beijing Olympic Committee pay the bird's nest, the design and of the bird's nest? And I'm afraid that your assets in China had been confiscated. And another thing is that who do you like the most? Who do you like the most interesting artist in China?
Three questions.
In China?
Yes. In China.
Who's the most interesting artist? Who do you think is the most interesting artist in China?
That's one question. And
The second one was about the bird's nest.
what about?
Peel?
If they pay,
Yeah. If the government paid for the bird nest.
did eventually the China government or the China Olympic Committee pay for the bird nest?
Yeah, but of course they pay. Otherwise, how can they
No,
accept?
no, paid you.
Oh, well,
Maybe the
and
question, right?
what is the third question?
There was a question also about whether your personal assets have been confiscated. Have you lost your personal assets?
Okay, so it's very clear. And well, I was, maybe I ask the third question first. I was accused publicly have some kind of tax or financial crimes, but that is just a smear. They never really even admitted they arrested me. So that 81 days, I just simply in vacation or somewhere, you know. So they never accuse me. They never really, they don't even let me to be in court to have a confrontation with them. Because I always tell them, I'm the one have no secret. You're the one full of secret. Let's have some kind of competition. So they are so scared. That's why they don't want to dealing with me. Because, you know, let's open that up directly to talk about those issues. So they didn't confiscate any of my, they said, Weiwei, in your design, my design form, I'm not the law representative, but I work for this little design form called fake design, F-A-K-E. Fake in Chinese pronunciation is a fuck. So they officially accepted it, and they don't understand English. They said this is probably the right one because they made a good choice because another one is a dick and another one is a pussy. So they choose the fake. I think they are more civilized, but they don't know what they choose anyway. So the second question, the bird nest. Of course, I got paid. I'm part of a design team, but they never paid me. I'm on the design team under the Herzogenaurach, the Swiss team. I'm not hired by them, but we are collaborating design this public how do you call it projects? Yeah, got paid. And the third one, who is a famous artist, I think this artist, maybe you don't know. It's a nice guy. His name's Weiwei. You know, he's.
Okay, the lady.
Hello and welcome. What a pleasure to have you here. I'm Elizabeth Palmer from CBS. My question is about technology, which is so woven into everything we do, but certainly is a real dynamic factor in freedom movements, all freedom. What terrifies you most about technology in the future, and what excites you most?
Technology.
Yeah, and maybe information technology, social media, and so on.
Well, it's let's see, technology, of course, I used to think what a time we're living in is beyond imagination. You know, we never can predict we're into this time that the technology which can make human have so much confidence, you know, we know so much more, and we are so easy to exchange ideas and to even extend our expression. But I only like to talk about the problem of that because it seems only going to be used really profit the power. You know, individuals, it doesn't matter, you have always limited usage. You know, it's not still, it reflects your economic standard, but really embodies or powers the cooperative or military, and they are the first one, pushes the so-called technology, because most technology are practical. You know, it's not a universal truth, but rather practical tools. We often forget, you know, if you are profited, but someone really million times profit by that. So that is very dangerous. It's very, it's almost like a game. I'll see my children and all the people, they play games. There's so many games, and really, in many ways, a crash or understanding or knowledge or wisdom, because we think we know too much, and also we don't care that much. Your emotions cannot catch up, or moral standing cannot really match what we think we know, but we don't really know. So that is profound problem.
Okay, listen, we have now only time for 2 last questions, and I'm going to give it to the associates. So I think Besselin was first. I saw his hand first, and then Junkin point between you 3.
Thank you very much, and my admiration for your work, Weiwei. My question is about
your name.
Veselin Popovsky, professor in international law and human rights. My question is about Japan. We talk a lot about China, but any issues in Japan you can raise concern with, being in Japan those days? Any issues of human rights, censorship? What do you think needs to improve in Japan as to make people satisfied with their human rights?
Thank you.
Well, that's again, it's a difficult question for someone not getting involved, because when my son started to study in Cambridge, he mentioned to me, well, we don't criticize Britain because I have to study a few years in here. So I always do that. I said, I promise I will not say anything bad about Britain, but we just mentioned Assange, So sorry, I can't answer that because I need to do more study, So.
Okay, if it's quick, 2 more.
Okay, very quick.
Very quick.
Yes, very quick. Thank you. I'm Tim Noonan from longtime columnist, South China Morning Post, Hong Kong, and somebody asked you earlier about talking to the last governor, Chris Patton, and I assume that was just an exchange of ideas because he has no sort of legislative power there. But I'm just wondering, because of your position, your creative dissent makes you sort of a darling of Western democracies. It often gets you access to the inner sanctum in ways that the media cannot get in there. So I'm just wondering, do you feel any kind of responsibility to articulate all these theories you spoke about today when you have the audience with some of these leaders?
Okay. You didn't get it? Well, he wants to know if you can elaborate a bit more on your meeting with Patton. When you spoke with Patton, from Governor Patton, if you feel that there is some kind of responsibility in the British for what happens in Hong Kong.
It's very specific question. When also a lady also asked me before the meeting. I think those issues include the human rights in Japan. I think we really look at a very broader issue. Yes, there's always human rights issues, not only in Japan or in Hong Kong, but in everywhere. And we always have to, it takes generations to redefine or to polish those values. I mean, if we think we can have this kind of liberty or freedom for granted, that only means we're too lazy or we're completely ignored about the rights. Rights only come from defending. Without defending, there's no such thing called rights. So.
Okay, I think that we are going to wrap up. My last question to you.
No, my question was about the patriarchy, but Pio took my time.
You have to, Pio, you have to let her have the question after that.
Okay.
You have to let her have the question after that. No,
Okay.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, patriarchy.
Yeah.
There's still
Go
time.
ahead.
Thank you, Pio. I'm a guest of Pio, and I really want to ask you, because I'm a member of the 50+% of the human population that is always oppressed, the most oppressed. I'm a woman. And I want to ask you, what do you think about patriarchy? Because I think that until patriarchy will be the guidelines of this society, nothing really will change. Democracy,
The patriarchy is.
politics, and everything. The control, male control on these societies.
Okay.
What is your point on that?
I think
nice easy
I
question.
think women are smart to let men control the world. So you don't have to dealing with those dirty jobs, and you just take. I think that's if you really want to fight, I give a fight. Yes. Of course, I always. I always admire anybody give a fight, but I don't encourage people to give a fight. I'm very conservative on that.
Well, what happens now in Italy, I don't think that the issue is being a woman or not. It's being a competent and reliable person. Okay, last... he has to take
I have to take
train.
it. We do it later, okay?
Okay?
Yeah.
Last question is about your whereabouts.
What?
You stay...
Whereabout, okay.
Yes, you already moved from China to Germany. Then you define the German people in interview not so open, so to say. Then even with the British, you have to say something. Now you say that you're going to stay in Portugal until something happens, unless something happens. If something happens, what country do you have already in standby? Japan, Italy, where you can get good fine arts and good food at least? Do you consider already, do you have a B plan?
I will say I like Japan, and I like a place people has some kind of order, and also there's some kind of, I don't know. It's kind of strange if you say some place everybody thinks they are creative, then I think that's a problem. But you see somewhere everyone is so restrained and so quiet, also that is a problem. So for me, my choice is not so important. It doesn't matter where I go. I spend a lot of time in different hotels. When you wake up at midnight, you're always trying to find out how to turn on the switch, or how to even. Many hotels you cannot even open the window, so it's not very pleasant. But I don't have much time left, so I don't even have to make that kind of choice.
Thank you very much, David. You want to?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry to ask, but Weiwei has to catch a train, so please let him get out without the usual hugging and so on. And before wrapping up, Weiwei, this is our token of gratitude for you. This is a 1-year membership to our club.
I love this club. I never had a talking people when we have some food, I like it. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay.
I will be back soon.
Yeah.
Next year, maybe.